Welcome to this episode of Free Lab Friday, where we're going to turn this $35 computer into your personal VPN server so you can impress the interviewers on your next job interview. Let's go. I'm super excited to bring this episode to you. And first, I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about not only what we're going to do, but why this is so cool and how it can help you in maybe say a job interview or something like that. Check the description and the comments for the timestamps if you want to skip past me talking and just get straight into the configuration of the VPN so you can connect to your network from anywhere. Also, if you're new to the channel, of course, don't forget to like and subscribe because I'll have more content like this coming as I can release it. Now, what I have here is a Raspberry Pi. This one is the 4, but you could do this on a 3, 3B plus, or just a 3. And I said $35, but if you end up getting a package with like a case and stuff like that, it may be a little bit more expensive. But at any rate, you can get this done for less than $100. So what we're going to do is first we need to go to noip.com. And by the way, links to all of the tools you need, and the tools are free. The only thing you need to buy is the Raspberry Pi, but links to everything you need is in the description. So make sure you check that out. But we're going to make an account on NoIP and we're going to get basically a free domain name, because if you're like me, you probably don't have a static IP address at your home. So your public IP address is changing regularly. And in order for this to work, for you to be able to connect to your network from the outside, we need some kind of static IP. So instead of, purchasing a static IP, we're going to get this free host name from noip.com, and then we're going to configure a dynamic update client on the Raspberry Pi to anytime your IP address changes, it'll update the servers on noip.com so that the free host name you get will resolve to your public IP. Once we get that done, we're going to install PiVPN on this. And this is so super simple. This is why I love this lab, because it's all incredibly easy. It's just a couple things we're going to basically paste into the command line, and it's going to essentially set itself up. We'll then create a client profile, grab that client profile off of this using SFTP and filezilla. And then we're going to put that client profile on, say, an iPhone or whatever. I'm going to show you in this video putting it on my iPhone. Once we have all of this done, we're going to be able to connect to the network in our home from anywhere. This is going to be able to control devices in your home. If you've got a Hue or smart lighting, or if you've got servers or routers or something like that, you're going to be able to connect to that from anywhere and control it. It'll also give you security. Say you're at Starbucks or Walmart or wherever you're at and you're on public Wi-Fi, you can encrypt your connection so that anybody there, trying to hack or sniff your packets or whatever, they're not going to get anything off of you. It's going to be encrypted. Now, the reason I think this is so cool and this can help you out is because let's say you're doing a job interview or something like that. You can list, home labbing on your resume and all that. And when they talk to them, you can say, hey, I set up a VPN to my home using dynamic DNS. Depending on the situation of the interview, I'm going to show you in this video an app you can download on your iPhone to get to the terminal, and I'll just show you connecting to the terminal of this Pi via SSH. And or if you had routers, actually, I used to have a Cisco switch and things like that in my home, and I could literally SSH into my Cisco switch and get in the command line from my cell phone. So again, super, super cool lab. And not only is it super cool, but it's just crazy easy. So I'm really excited, and let's go ahead and jump into configuring. Okay, so the first thing you can do is go to noip.com. Again, links in description, but it's literally just noip.com. Create yourself an account. I've already got one. So I'll go to manage domains. And then once we're here, we're going to do dynamic DNS, noip host names, and we're going to create a host name. Now you've got a bunch of cool choices here for free names. One of them is servebeer.com. That's kind of cool, but I have picked hop2.org, and I actually already have a domain name that I'm going to use, and I chose Big Sauce because who doesn't like to have the sauce? So once you've got that set up, you're all good to go on the NoIP side. Now we're going to move on to the configuration of the Raspberry Pi. The thing is, I have already put the operating system on my Raspberry Pi. We're not going to go over that because there's tons of tutorials on how you can do that online. I'm using Raspberry Pi OS Lite, so I don't have a desktop environment, just a command line. I've also already gone in and configured a static IP and enabled SSH on the device. So I am able to SSH into the Pi already. Now I'll SSH into my Pi and I'll show you what you can do to enable these features if you just turn on the Pi and plug it into, say, your monitor or something like that. So first we'll open up a command prompt, and then I'm going to SSH to username at IP address of the Pi. So that looks like this. So one of the first things you probably want to do when your Pi's out of the box is change the password. And you can do that with the command passwd. Now, I've already done this, so I won't do it again, but you'll just enter the default password, which is Raspberry, and then your new password twice, and that will be done. So what you can do once you've logged in and you've changed your password to enable SSH for remote access is sudo system control enable SSH. And then you can sudo system control start SSH. And then you'll be able to SSH into the device. But the next thing you want to do after you've enabled SSH is configure a static IP for your Raspberry Pi. There's a couple ways to do this, but I'll show you how you can edit the dhcpcd.conf file and set up your IP that way. So what you'll do is sudo nano/etc/dhcpcd.conf. It looks like this. Okay, so once you get into the dhcpcd.conf file, you just need to scroll down to this section, change your interface. I suggest in your case to use ETH0, not WLAN 0, but just for this demonstration, I'm using the wireless interface. Under the static IP address, uncomment that field, set the IP address you want to use. For static routers, set your router. For the domain name servers, I have used my router and then a backup of the 8.8.8.8, which is Google's DNS server. Then you'll press Control O to save and Control X to exit this file and reboot your Raspberry Pi, and you should have a static IP address. I'll put a link in the description to a lesson on how to change the IP address in case you have any trouble with this. The next thing we're going to want to do is follow the instructions on NoIP's site for configuring their dynamic update client. Now, I'll put the link to this webpage right here in the description, but all you have to do is come to this webpage and follow these instructions. So we're going to make a directory, home/pi/noip. Then we're going to change into that directory. Then we're going to copy this and we're going to go ahead and paste that in, hit enter. That's going to download. Now we'll unzip that file. Again, just copying and pasting their instructions. Now we'll change directories into the NoIP blah 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 directory, and then we'll just follow the instructions again. We'll make for the install, then we'll install it. Now what you want to do here is enter the email address you used to sign up for the NoIP website. Now once you've entered your username and password, all you need to do is configure an update interval. The lowest you can configure is 5. So this is basically going to poll every 5 or 30 minutes. I'm going to use 30 because that's probably fine. And it's just going to check your public IP. If your public IP has changed, it'll update the servers on noip.com and it'll change the entry so that the free domain name that you just set up will resolve to your public IP. So I'm going to go ahead and just use the default of 30. I don't want to run anything at the successful update, so you can just put no here. And that's it. You're good to go. Now, in order to make sure that that worked correctly, you can run the following command. And this is a -S. So sudo noip2 -S. And as we can see, this process is active. So again, what this is doing is anytime your public IP changes, you're updating the no IP servers, and the free domain name that you got, mine was big-sauce.hop2.org. It's updating that entry, so that domain name will resolve to your public IP. Really cool. Now, the next thing to do is to configure PiVPN. Again, this is very simple. All we're going to do is enter the following command. So this is curl-capital L HTTPS install.pivpn.io pipe bash. And this is going to run us through basically a prompt, and I'll just leave this on the screen here. I haven't run the apt update or apt-get, so it's just doing that for me now, and I'll fast forward through this part. Okay, then this screen is going to come up for you, and it's going to basically install the PiVPN. We're going to run through a couple prompts here. We're going to give it a couple options, and then we're going to make the client pull that out, put it on our phone. So we'll run through this prompt. Okay. Are you using DHCP? Yes. I have the static IP, so I can just hit yes. If you don't configure the static IP the way we did with the dhcpd.conf, you can use this prompt right here to configure a static IP for you, but I just went ahead and did that in advance. Now we'll choose the user that'll hold the configurations. I only have one, it's the default, so that's fine. Now I'm going to choose OpenVPN. If anybody's more familiar with WireGuard, this is a new addition since the last time I've used this, but I'm just more familiar with OpenVPN, and you should be fine to go ahead and just use OpenVPN. We're going to go ahead and leave the default, so it's going to use UDP, and there's no custom search for the domain. We don't have a domain. If you had like a domain, like a Windows server or a firewall running a domain name in your network, then you could set that, but I don't, so we're just going to go ahead and use the defaults. And it's going to go ahead and finish installing some more. I am going to go ahead and use UDP. Now, 1194 is the default port. There's probably nothing wrong with using that. This is secure as long as you have a strong, secure password on your client and you protect your client and things like that, you'll probably be fine, but I am just going to go ahead and change the default port. I'm going to use 1996. If you change the port, look up the well-known UDP ports and make sure you don't take a well-known and commonly used one. I'm just using 1996 because that's the year my wife was born. Yes, these settings are correct. The DNS provider, I'm going to go ahead and use Google. No, I don't want to add a custom search domain. This is if you had like a Windows domain or like I said, a firewall running a domain in your house or something like that. I don't have that lab. I used to, but I don't now. So we're going to select no. We're going to use this we're going to use a DNS entry. This is where the no IP domain name comes into play. We'll hit OK. And the public DNS name for me is bigsauce.hop2.org. You want to make sure that you enter whatever you registered at no IP in this field. We'll hit OK. Yes, it's correct. Most of you can probably just go ahead and select yes. I would even almost venture to say all of you. You can read this when you go through it on your own, but I'm just going to go ahead and select yes for the defaults because it will work fine. So what we have here is the size of the certificate. 256 is probably fine for most people. If you're using an older Pi that doesn't have as much RAM, definitely you can feel totally safe going ahead to use 256. As you can see, the 521 is paranoid level. Read the little excerpt here when you run through this, and definitely do some Googling to understand what this stuff is talking about if you're interested in the cybersecurity. I'm going to use 384 because I have here a Raspberry Pi 4, and this one either has the 4 or the 8 gig, so I just want to see how fast it is to generate this larger certificate. And that was really fast on this one. Like I said, you're probably fine to use 256, but if you want to be mega secure, go ahead and use one of the bigger ones. Now it's asking if you want to enable unattended upgrades because we're going to expose this to the internet. So I'm going to go ahead and definitely allow the security patches to be installed unattended, and then it's recommended to reboot this periodically. I would venture to say you'd probably be safe to do that about once a month or so. Now you're finished, and all we'll have to do is run this command you see on the screen, PiVPN add. This is going to create what's called a client profile. This is what your outside device is going to use to connect and authenticate with this VPN server. So we're done, and I'll go ahead and click OK. Strongly recommended to reboot. I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and I would suggest you to do the same. We're going to let the Pi reboot, then we'll SSH in again, and we'll create our client profile. Okay, so we're back in our Raspberry Pi, and now we're going to create the VPN profile. So we'll do PiVPN add. Now we'll enter a name for this. I'm going to use this for my iPhone, so I'm going to call it Alex iPhone. I'll let my certificate be good for 1 year, so 365 days. And here you want to definitely pick a strong password. Okay, and that's it. We're done. Now, as you can see, this is where the client certificate lives. So there's multiple ways you could get this out of your device, but what I like to do is use FileZilla, and it makes it very easy. So here we are in FileZilla, and all you'll need to do is put the IP address of your Pi, then your username and password. And we'll use port 22 to do this over SSH. Accept. And now we'll see, this is our file structure, our directories over here. We'll go to OpenVPNs, and then we'll drag our client profile onto our computer. Next, what we're going to do is hop into iTunes, and I'll show you how you can get this client onto your iPhone. You could also install the desktop client on your desktop and use this client to connect from a laptop or a desktop from another location or whatever you want. I would recommend using different client profiles for different people and different devices as well. So let's go ahead and jump into that part. Okay, so here we are in iTunes, and you'll just come up here and click this little phone icon. Then we'll come down here to file sharing. Download the OpenVPN app from the App Store. You can just search OpenVPN and download the app. You'll click here, then go to where you've extracted your client profile from the Pi, and just go ahead and drag that right over. And that's all you need to do. The next thing we're going to do is hop over into the iPhone and show you how it connects. But wait, we actually need to do one more step first. What we need to do is a port forward on our router. This is maybe different on your router than it is on mine, but I'll show you how I do it on mine. You can Google your router model and figure out how to set up your port forward. But basically what this is going to do is we're going to send the connection request to the domain name that we registered at the NoIP website at the UDP port we selected. Mine was 1996. Our router is going to receive that request, and it's going to then forward it to the IP address of our Raspberry Pi, who is going to handle the rest of the VPN connection. So let's just go ahead and jump right into my router, and I'll show you how that's done. Okay, so here we are in my AT&T modem router, and yes, my Wi-Fi is cat crazy. So what we'll do from here is we'll go to firewall, then we'll go to NAT and gaming, and we need to set up a custom service. So I'm going to call this VPN. Then we're going to enter the port range. Mine was 1996. Again, 1996. And this is going to be UDP. We're going to add that. And we are going to return to NAT Gaming. Then this is going to be needed by my Raspberry Pi. I have renamed my Raspberry Pi as VPN server. Yours may just say Raspberry Pi. So we'll select the service VPN, needed by device VPN server. We'll add that, and now we're good to go. Like I said, this may be different on your modem or your router. Just Google how to do a port forward on your router, and you should be good to go. The last thing we'll do is hop into the OpenVPN client on the iPhone. I'll show you a cool little trick you can do using a program called Termius, and then we'll close out the video. So let's check that out. Okay, welcome to my iPhone. As soon as you open OpenVPN, it's going to present you with this import profile screen, and you should see the name of the profile that you are importing. So you can go ahead and click add. It will add it. You can go ahead and save the private key and password. So I'll save that so I don't have to type it every time, and I will fast forward through that. Now I am making sure that I'm not on my Wi-Fi network. I am on the cellular network. And we can see that we are now connected to our VPN. So something cool you can do is download the app called Termius, and you can SSH into devices on your network. So here I am and I'm going to open up Termius. Once you're in Termius, you're going to see a screen like this. So you can go ahead and click plus, add a new host. For the host name, you're going to enter the IP address. I'll call mine PiVPN new. I had a few from before. It is going to use SSH. It is going to use the port. Then you'll enter your username and password. Again, I will fast forward through this part. And once you have entered your password, you can go ahead and click save. Now, if I go to connect to that device, you can see that I am now at the terminal of my PiVPN server, and this will work for any device that you can connect to over SSH. This is really, really cool. I've done a lot of things with this. I have had, web servers at home, and I've used them to change messages. I used JavaScript and CSS to animate messages on a web server that was displaying on like a TV or a monitor. So I would send my wife little messages or whatever. Actually, while I mention her, she's from another country all the way across the ocean, and I have given her one of these client profiles, and she was able to connect to the VPN in the United States and access sites that were blocked in her country. So that was pretty cool, and that just shows you how well and how functional this VPN is. And if you have something like, for instance, a Hue, you can control your lights from outside. I mean, obviously you can connect the Hue and use the Hue Connect and all these other things, but basically I think you get the idea, and the potential is really limitless for this. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and definitely make sure to like and subscribe. Please leave any questions or parts that you get stuck on in the comments, and I will do my best to help, and I'll see you in the next Free Lab Friday. Thanks, guys.